All right, so the last part of our personal characteristics unit talks about time management. So, when we look specifically at a definition of what is time management, it's a system of practical skills we use that allow us to use our time in the most effective and productive way possible. As a result, this prevents or reduces our stress, increases our productivity, improves our enjoyment of activities, and provides time for relaxation and enjoyment. So, when we're looking at how we can do a time management log, one thing we can do is keep an activity for several days. It kind of gives us an idea of how we're actually using our time. You might see that there are some time in the day where you have higher energy levels, so you're doing better work or you're just being more productive, and that you're less productive when you're tired or maybe at the end of the day. We also might notice a fairly decent amount of wasted time. So, how often are we on social media or how often are we playing games on our phone? Yes, sometimes we use that to de stress, but for instance, TikTok, there are times where people just randomly scroll and then they've lost an hour of the day. So, once we get a better idea of how we're actually spending our time, we can start to organize it a little bit better. Ideally, we're going to try to schedule important things when our energy and productivity are higher, and then our rest or some of that optional or less important activities when our energy is a little bit lower. Part of time management is going to be setting goals. A goal, just as a definition, is something we're trying to achieve. So, for instance, maps, we're helping find our direction, we're helping get to the destination of what that goal is. Now, we can have long term or short term goals. So, long term goals is something that is going to take us usually years, um, some sort of long period of time to accomplish, whereas short term goals usually take days, weeks, months, and there tend to be smaller steps towards reaching those long term goals. So, for instance, if our goal is to graduate college with a healthcare degree like nursing, what are some short term goals? And that might be things like taking health science or volunteering at the hospital or getting CPR certified. All things that we can set short term goals for that will help us reach that long term goal. It's also important that we set our goals effectively. So, we want our goals to be stated in a positive manner. For instance, I'm going to accomplish drinking 64 ounces of water a day, not something like I'm going to avoid drinking all soda forever. Because when you put it in that negative sense, it just makes it much more likely that we're either going to not do it or fail at achieving it. We want these goals to be smart or clearly defined and precise, so there's a time limit. If I just say that I'm going to save $100 but not give it a deadline, well, every time I look at saving money, I'm probably going to push that off. When I have multiple goals, I want to make sure I'm prioritizing which one's most important so I can complete that first. Write your goals down. So things like a vision board or just writing it down in your journal or in your notebook helps it seem more real. And then we want to make sure it's a right level goal. For instance, if I currently cannot even run a mile, I don't want to set my goal at running a marathon. It's not really achievable. So I'm just going to be disappointed when I don't complete it. So once we've written our goals down, how can we get them achieved? Just like we talked about managing our stress with the problem solving method, we're going to do kind of the same thing. So, what skills, what information do I need? What potential problems might come up? So, if I want to run that marathon or that 5K, what if it's raining? How am I going to react? What if it's snowy and icy? Am I going to just skip it, or is there a place I can run indoors? Make sure we organize the steps that will help us get to the goal. And then once we've achieved it, enjoy that. Be proud of yourself. If it's something we don't achieve, figure out why. Was it unrealistic for me to try to run a mile in a next month? Did I lack some of the skills that I needed to try to achieve that goal? And then looking back, is there another way I can do it? And what did I learn from this experience? The great thing is that there's always an opportunity to learn something, even if we have succeeded. Again, we're going to analyze and prioritize. So, what are my goals? What has to be done first? What's the most important? Can I ask anybody else to do any of this? And then get rid of any unnecessary tasks. For instance, you might hear the phrase, work smarter, not harder. Don't do more work if you can streamline the process and cut some steps out and still get the same result. Use a planner. I know a lot of times we get stuck with the calendar on our phone or thinking that we're going to remember everything or counting on Google Classroom or Schoology to let us know when things are due. But one of the best things you can do is have a place where you actually keep track of everything that's going on, even if that's scheduling in exercise or rest. And then if you have a conflict, you can make sure to prioritize. So, for instance, if you have 2 tests on one day, okay, well, which one do you need to study for more? Which one do you feel less confident with the information? And then move forward with your plan. Some people like me thrive off of to-do lists, so I write down all the tasks I need to do, delete them as I finish them, and then add any uncompleted tasks to the next day's list. Or there are times I look at my list and I say, you know what, it's been a week, I haven't done this yet. Is it really that important? And if it's not, cross it off. Plan your work. It's okay to work at a comfortable pace. I try to do the hardest thing first. That gives me that kind of downhill slide that once that's done, it's kind of easy cruising from here on out. Focus on one thing at a time, then you can cross it off your list instead of doing 3 things at once. You don't finish any of them, and then at the end of the day, you feel like you really haven't done anything. Make sure you have everything you need before you start. Again, ask for assistance, and like we said, work smarter, not harder. Don't give yourself more work for no reason. Avoid distractions. So we want to make sure that we're minimizing our interruptions. Use caller ID to screen your calls. I know a lot of you don't talk on the phone anymore, but try to avoid procrastinating. So don't say, I'm going to just look at Facebook for 1 more minute. And again, we've talked about saying no in other situations, but if someone says, hey, can you XYZ, and it's not essential, tell them no, not right now. Or let me finish this and then I'll do it for you. One thing that I like to do with my phone is either put it face down or put it in another room so that I'm not potentially distracted when I'm trying to get things done. When you finish, recognize that you've done something. Take it off your list, give yourself a pat on the back, know that you've accomplished what you set out to do, and then give yourself a break. Don't immediately jump into the next thing. So just a quick summary, that time management is going to help us stay organized. It's going to make sure we're using our time most efficiently. We've got to remember that things aren't always going to go according to plan. So things come up, whether it's emergencies, complications, family things. So you have to be able to be a little bit flexible. If something doesn't work, figure out why it failed, reevaluate, and try again. And we want to always be patient, make sure we're practicing and putting in the hard work so that we can get what we're aiming for out of it. So that sums up, well, this unit, but that finishes up our personal characteristics of a healthcare worker unit. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I will see you at our next unit, which is talking about careers.